Hey guys, welcome back to the Sports from the Chair channel. It's been a little minute. Life has been pretty busy, but I am back, and today I'm getting into the Sixers 2025 rookie class. Considering enough time has passed with Summer League coming and going to really get some grounded thoughts on what I think we could expect from this new crop of Sixers. So, as we all know, after the season from hell, the Sixers finished the season doing the one thing we've always been good at tanking, and tanked enough to get the third overall pick in the 2025 NBA draft, which we used to select VJ Edgecombe, shooting guard out of Baylor. Now, Edgecombe showed early on to be a very intriguing prospect. A year ago, he made himself known to the basketball world when the Bahamian-born guard played for the Bahamas national team in the FIBA Olympic qualifying tournament, where he averaged 16.5 points, 5.5 rebounds, 3.8 assists, and 2 steals per game. And this was on the Bahamas national team with decent NBA talent. You have former Sixer and adopted Splash brother Buddy Hield, current Sixer and not so ageless wonder in Eric Gordon, and the unfortunate fall from grace story in DeAndre Ayton. Okay, maybe not the most decent group of NBA talent, but still, normally when you have a group like that, you'd expect them to make the most impact, especially since Edgecombe was the youngest on the team, and you could argue he ended up making the biggest impact overall. He mostly continued that production during his 1 year at Baylor, averaging 15 points, 3.2 assists, 5.6 rebounds, and 2.1 steals, shooting 43.6% from the field and 34% from three, albeit not on the highest volume shooting from three, but still impressive. He was heavily highlighted going into the draft process after showing high-level two-way ability and crazy athleticism, which caused multiple NBA analysts and fans to compare him to players such as Victor Oladipo, DeJounte Murray, and his potential even drew comparisons to NBA Hall of Famer Dwayne Wade. I myself, despite my reservations on drafting him, thought he reminded me of a young Russell Westbrook with a slightly better jump shot, given his athleticism and breakneck speed when finishing on fast breaks and transition points. Like I said though, I admittedly wasn't fully on board with the Sixers drafting VJ, given the fact that our guard rotation is already fairly heavy with Tyrese Maxey and Jared McCain already on the roster, and Quentin Grimes, hopefully, still expected to re-sign with the team, especially given the fact that VJ at his base right now seems to be pretty similar to Quentin Grimes, just raw. Full disclosure, I was more on Team Ace Bailey, despite the fan backlash harping on his weaknesses, his lackluster success during his 1 year at Rutgers, although that situation wasn't really his or Dylan Harper's fault when you really look at it, and fans crapping on him for actually being 6'7" without shoes instead of his listed 6'10" at Rutgers, yet when you saw him play during Summer League, he looked much bigger. Funny. Given the depth we needed at the forward position with Paul George pretty much on the very tail end of his career, thanks again for that contract, Maury, I felt Bailey would have worked well on this team, learning from PG, who he looked up to and was one of the guys he said he modeled his game after. And given that this is a team that has a clear pecking order, there would be less pressure for Bailey to do it all and just focus on improving the weaknesses he had and could grow as a nice young piece with Maxey, McCain, and the rest of the young Sixers moving forward without having to worry about fighting for a spot or minutes like VJ will probably have to. But I can't lie, when the reports came out about him canceling meetings with the team, the stories about his representation, wanting a draft promise, and the clear maneuvering to get him on either the Wizards or Pelicans, I accepted defeat on the idea of Bailey with the Sixers. Hopefully he has a good NBA career still. With all that being said though, it didn't take long for VJ to get me to buy in. During his draft day interview, he talked about his upbringing and the trials he went through to get to this point, and the key thing I took away from it, he is a dog. As our old friend Paul Reed used to say, he got out the mud, which tells me he's a hard worker similar to Maxey and McCain, which we need a lot more of in this organization. And his Summer League debut sold me even more when he put up a stat line of 28 points, 10 rebounds, and 4 assists in his first Summer League game, shooting 13 of 26 from the field and 1 of 3 from 3. Despite the efficiency percentages, VJ had one of the best debut performances in the 2025 Summer League. And even though he had a few mishaps, failing to successfully finish at the rim at times, and showing that there still needs to be some improvement on his shot, he showed multiple flashes of the potential he has and what he could be if everything comes together. And yes, he did rock the rim a few times in the process.
Yeah, I'm not really I just see Edgecombe throw it down.
Now, even though VJ only played 2 total games in Summer League after getting injured after his first game, seems like that trend is continuing. One thing I will say is that watching VJ, I felt something I don't normally feel. I felt a bit of an unusual sense of hope and confidence. Like when he was on the floor, it felt like we were going to win. Whenever he had the ball in his hands, I was convinced he'd get a bucket and no one was going to stop him. Kind of like how it felt with Embiid during his MVP year, or Maxey when he's having one of those games where he's playing out of his mind, like Game 5 against the Knicks a few years back. Although I wasn't the biggest fan of drafting VJ at first, I gotta admit he wasn't a bad choice to go with if it wasn't going to be Ace. Even though it's pretty clear that at some point the Sixers will probably have to trade away McCain down the line because there's almost no way you can keep Maxey, McCain, and VJ long term. In my opinion, all three have the capability of being starting caliber guards, and you can't play VJ at the 3 right now because he's still raw and needs a bit more growth and strength to keep up with the NBA level small forwards. But he projects to be a better two-way player, and with Maxey already on a max deal, that leaves McCain as the odd man out. But if we can re-sign Grimes, this may be the best Sixers guard rotation we've had in years. Minus Kyle Lowry and Eric Gordon, of course. I'm sorry, but there's no way either of them should get minutes of the season at their age, even if we don't re-sign Grimes. Next, the Sixers used the 35th pick in the second round to draft Auburn center VJ and Broome, and I won't lie, I was not the happiest with this pick. Now, before anyone gets the wrong idea, I understand the thought behind drafting Broome. He's a 5-year college player, playing his first 2 years at Morehead State before transferring and playing his next 3 years at Auburn, where he pretty much became the best Auburn player since Charles Barkley. So he has a lot of maturity and in a sense is more NBA ready than most prospects that were in the draft with him. In his final year at Auburn, he averaged 18.6 points, 2.9 assists, 10.8 rebounds, and 2.1 blocks while shooting 51% from the field and 27% from 3. He has more of an inside-out game. He does most of his damage in the paint, using post moves and strength to buy defenders to get his points at the rim. Despite his assist numbers, he does have a decent playmaking skill. When in the right situation, he can play a bit of a point forward role and be a bit more of an offensive hub. Not fully in the way of Jokic or Şengün, but there's something there. His game reminds me a lot of Yabusele, which is probably another big reason why Morey drafted him, to be that replacement. But as fun as Yabu was on the Sixers, there were drawbacks to him, and Janai has similar weaknesses. First one being, he's not very athletic. In the combine, he had one of the worst verticals, and despite his block averages in college, his mobility leaves much to be desired, just like with Yabu. Both guys have slightly wonky shooting forms, but for Yabu, it translated extremely well when shooting from 3. Better than expected, honestly. And to his credit, Broome surprised me with how well he shot the 3 ball during Summer League. Granted, he was still a bit underwhelming overall, but there were still instances where you could see how he could add benefits to this team if put in the proper role or supporting cast around him. Truthfully, I would not have minded drafting Broome depending on how the board fell on draft night, but on night 2 of the draft, there were quite a few other suitable options at the 35th pick, one being Adu Thiero, who I was personally very high on because he was basically VJ but bigger, playing the small forward position, but with enough athleticism to possibly slide to the 4 against certain opponents. His 3-point shot needs work like VJ, but still good enough to make an impact right now. But instead, he got picked by the Nets at pick 36 and traded to the Lakers in a draft night deal. But still, given Broome's college career, he has an NBA-ready body for the most part, although I can't really see him playing center in the league right now given his lack of athleticism. He'll have to play more at power forward. But with that being said, he is a hard worker who I can tell will give his all to make a positive impact on this team. If anything, hopefully he can help shore up the rebounding issues we've been having. The one thing I've given Morey during his tenure with the Sixers is that he's had a pretty good track record with drafting, so hopefully this won't be the end of that trend. And with that, that is the Sixers 2025 NBA draft class. There were a few UDFA guys we picked up, like always, but I'll make a separate video on that as we get closer to the beginning of training camp. I promise you guys I will do my best to be more consistent as we get into the beginning of the new NFL season. Cannot wait to see the Eagles raise that banner. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoy my content, please like, share, and subscribe. Have a blessed day, and I'll see you guys on the next one.